Welcome to another board game Blitz by theplayersaid.com. I'm Grant.
And I'm Alexander.
And I'm Gary.
And Gary, in case you're asking, is our brother-in-law, both Alexander and my brother-in-law, from Arizona. He's in this week. We had a vacation together, and we decided to play some games. So we've had a good time gaming with him. We appreciate him, and he's got some fantastically insightful opinions he's going to give.
Absolutely.
So today, we ended up playing for the first time a game that I've owned since Gen Con last year, Giza the Great Pyramid. I bought this for $7 from the Mayfair booth. They had kind of a clear out, as anyone who's been to Gen Con or Origins knows. And this was a game that I had on my list. I thought it was interesting. There's some bidding involved. What you're trying to do is you're actually building a very miniature replica of the Great Pyramid on the plateau of Giza. And actually you can see here, this is a plastic pyramid that we assembled throughout the course of the game. But you're trying to build that pyramid. You have workers. You're trying to feed your workers, move your workers along quarry tracks on sleds as we move these giant pieces of limestone block up to lift onto the temple or onto the pyramid. And then you're doing some other things like putting workers in the Temple of Ra so that you can score points when you finish a level. Also, there's an artist area where you're trying to decorate the temple levels that are finished. Kind of a really fascinating game with a lot of different elements to it. So I'm going to turn to Alexander first and ask him what his favorite or some of the things he liked about the game are.
So, the game is a small game, right? Small box, small little board. So that was nice. But actually, for a small game, it packs a lot of punch for what it is. And like you said, it's worker placement and worker movement, and it's got bidding. I love a game with good bidding mechanic in it. And this has 2 or 3 different bidding kind of phases or options in it. But my favorite part about this game is the turn track. You have your actions and bonus actions are on the turn track, and so you're choosing not only player order, but kind of what extra stuff you can do with that. So it takes it's like action selection in a way, but it's like bonus action selection, and you can't ever like repeat your choices throughout the course of one of the 2 halves of the game, and so that becomes very, very tight. Even the turn this turn track bit is a mini game almost within itself, and that bit's really, really cool. I really enjoyed it.
And the interesting thing about that turn track, the box there is, you can take all those actions as part of your turn. You get 3 action points, but you don't get the bonus. And what Alexander was referring to was bonus moves.
Yeah.
There are a couple support move, which means you can move your guys down in these various camps. You just got a free move. Otherwise, you would have to pay one of your precious actions to do that. So getting those at key times sometimes was very, very important. Also, one of the very, very important parts of the game is called the lifter move, and maybe some of us will talk about that. But that's another one. You can really only do that by placing your cube in this area. You can't just take that as a basic action.
Yeah, like it's only available on that turn track and through like one other opportunistic mechanism. Right. So that some of it's so valuable on that track. You're like, choosing what you're trying to do and be like, it's great. That's a great tension in the game.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so Gary, what did you like about the game?
One of the things I loved is you couldn't, at least for me, maybe if I played it more I could focus on one specific strategy, but because your turn's constantly changing, it feels like I had one strategy, but then I'm letting another part of the game go, which is going to be really important down the road, and you need to plan ahead. You need to look multiple turns ahead and decide where you're going to use your bonus moves. Is it better to use it early on in the game, later on in the round? And as Grant had mentioned, when you get up here to the lifting moves, the game changes completely. You have pretty much free reign of this board. You're moving back and forth, and all of a sudden you're limited if you haven't planned ahead for the lifter moves, which is why I lost. Otherwise, I probably would have won.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
think you would
I
have. You
think I
you
It
would
would have been closer
It would have been
than
much
it
closer.
was.
Yeah.
But the game's constantly changing, depending on the round and whether you're pushing pyramid pieces, lifting pyramid pieces. Do you have enough art to gain extra points? Do you have enough men in the Temple of Ra? Do you have enough food to feed your workers? Also, I really liked the strategy of you can jump on someone's sled to move up to the Temple of Ra and just kind of almost bum points off of them and have them do
Right.
most of the work. Now, in the end, they may get more points for it, but
At least
they're
you're
doing
going to
all
get
the work.
something.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you'll lose, right? If you
'Cause you'll
don't
die.
get your points and piggyback off everyone else, you will not get enough points
No.
Right.
to aggregate over the course of the game. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed about this is that it gave me, in a totally different way, a similar feeling that I get from Dominant Species, where it's trying to piggyback off of everyone. But
Yeah, they're going to score
ultimately-
that tile. I want to get a couple points. So
But
I'm going to go in
ultimately,
there.
you have not nearly as much control as you think you do.
Yeah.
Like, someone else has got all this power to, like, move these other tiles, and you're just like, oh, I'm trying to get up there, and then you can't, and then there's so much that's not in your control. You're just trying to, like, do what you can to, like,
Right.
deal with what's going on. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. There's kind of a bidding mechanic in some ways. It's not really bidding, but when you're trying to move these sleds, you have to pay a certain amount of food to get it to move. And like you were talking, you know, if there's 3 guys on there and I have 2 of them, and I don't really care if it moves, I may not move it. So it's a matter of you're trying to bluff each other. And if Alexander has 1 guy, he wants to keep that guy alive. He really wants to keep that guy alive. But the bidding that I'm really trying to talk about is not bidding. It's up on the lifter levels where you're trying to lift the pieces from the, I don't know what the lifting camp, is that
Yeah,
what
the
they call
lifting
it,
camp's what they
Right.
call
onto the pyramid itself. You can only bid up to 0 to 2 food based on the number of lifters you have in the camp. And you also go around in an order, so it's just a really fascinating part of the game because you're really trying to wait people out. You're trying to see what they're going to do before you decide, but you also want to make sure you pay enough food to get in the first place so that you score the most amount of points. And this game, the other thing I really liked is you have to score points, just like you said, from a couple different elements.
Yeah.
But I will say this, you cannot score on everything every time. If you do that, I think you're going to be overspending yourself and you're not going to have enough power to do something at the end when it really, really matters. There was one time where I really got a lot of food and I tried to make sure I got good points the next 2 rounds before those resources were gone. And you'll notice if you saw the board, I have the most lifters in the camp because I wanted to keep scoring on those. And that was my strategy. I stuck to it and I ended up barely winning. But really I like the components as well. This is actually a very small game, small footprint. Not a lot of things, but really, really nice. It actually, to me, is a big game in a small box. And that's one of the things I liked about it. Alexander, what did you not like about
That's
it?
the only thing I didn't like. Components-wise, it's great, apart from the world's smallest player aid. Like, print this on can you
Can't
print
even
this
see
on
it.
the map?
It should have just been on the board.
Print this in
Yeah.
this tiny corner of the unused map.
But the player aid, I thought the player aid on your screen,
this was
very
this was
useful.
generally very, very helpful.
But it didn't include the scoring or the consequences of not paying
Yeah.
enough food.
Outside of that, it was a neat game. Love the little plastic pyramid.
Yeah, kinda
that-
cool.
Components-wise, it was great. I don't know if there was anything I necessarily didn't like about the game. It's work and placement, which isn't my favorite style,
Right.
but that doesn't make it a bad game. It's good for what it is, absolutely.
Yeah. Gary, what?
Right. And I agree. I don't know. There's a lot I didn't like, other than it took us a while to figure out how to play it.
Maybe it's a little bit too long.
Yeah,
for
too
what it
long
is.
for what it's.
That
yeah.
might be
It says 90 minutes, I think.
Yes.
And maybe a second time round it would be quicker.
I don't know that you can do it in 90
But there
minutes.
is a lot of there's quite a bit of AP where you're like,
Yeah, you got to think about what you're doing.
because everything's so.
To me,
tight.
this is a 2-hour game minimum under the best circumstances. And we only played 3 players.
Yeah.
I think adding another player is going to add probably another 15 to 20 minutes at minimum.
But then maybe the tracks would go quicker though.
Yeah,
because you'd have more
the game would end
nominations.
quicker.
Difficult to say.
That would be my only concern, would be the time of playing. The other thing, Mayfair usually does decent components. these resources, these food tokens, they're really nice. Actually, I liked that the food was square and the art was round, so you would not confuse those. They're also different colors. But I didn't like that there's nothing on the back. To me, that's a simple, I don't know that costs a whole lot more, but it adds kind of another element. And because when you flip them over, they're white, so it's just kind of odd. So Alexander, your final thoughts on the game?
This is a neat. You paid $7 for this game.
$7.
For $7, you can't beat a game like
Yeah.
this. That's weighty in a tiny box.
Yep. Gary?
I'd pay more than $7 for this game for sure. Yeah. Again, kind of love-hate how your strategy's constantly changing. Where you think it's going one way, you get to the lift camps, and all of a sudden it changes. You know, you're not earning points by how many lifters you have there, but on how many people you're bidding. Whereas when you're pushing the sled, if you've got the most people pushing, you win the bonus points. And so it changes. And being the first time, that threw me off a bit. And
it was our first time too.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. If we had played another time, I think this would have been very different.
I would love to play it again. Yeah. So again, the things I didn't like, just because I was unfamiliar with it, playing it again, those things are gone.
Right.
It's fun.
So in summary, I think my comments about the game, there's a lot more game here than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think this probably got overlooked. I think it was from 2012. I don't know that it's really highly ranked. I don't think many people own it. But to me, this is a really good, solid, and meaty worker placement game that requires a lot of planning. And I like that in games where if I'm going to sit down for an hour and a half to 2 hours, which is the advertised playing time, I want it to challenge me and keep me interested the entire time.
Which it does.
I don't know that I ever felt like I'm bored. I felt like turns went fairly quickly. Because each player can nominate a sled or a piece to be lifted, you're always engaged on their turn. You have to wait for their actions, but you're always engaged. And I love the mini game within the game. We talk about that a lot. That turn track, awesome.
Yeah, that was
very cool. And even at the end, they had a tile that you would place on this turn track, changing what options you had. Really liked that. I thought that was cool. If you can get this game, I'm sure on Amazon it's probably $20-$25, maybe a little more.
It'll probably be available at Gen Con for peanuts as well.
I would pick this one up and give it a try. If your group likes meatier games that take about 2 hours to play, I think you're going to enjoy this. So that's our thoughts. I think we give this one a good rating, and that's all. Thanks for watching.